Hello Penguinauts, I'm the Beta Penguin and welcome back to Fall of Kerbin. Now, last turn, Tape managed to repel our invasion of Osiris Bay. However, instead of shoring up his defences like I would have thought he would do, he pushed on, foolishly, to Valley's Guard. And now to say he's overextended himself would be a massive understatement. He hasn't got a single anti-aircraft gun at Valley's Guard, so the term fish in a barrel doesn't really do it justice, to be honest. So we still have a Vulture lying around. Last turn we used it to attack his World War I tank sitting on our forward operating base in the south, which he's now put anti-aircraft guns around. God damn it, Tape, I should have left my Vulture there really to prevent him doing that, but oh well. Anyway, we've got it here and we've given it a slightly different armament to what it had last time. So Tape doesn't have a single anti-aircraft gun, but he does have a light tank with a 20mm anti-tank gun, which could pose somewhat of a threat. So we're going to come in really low, really fast, and do a ground attack run with our Vulture. This is exactly what it was designed to do. It wasn't really designed for dive bombing so much. It was far more aimed towards being a ground attack aircraft. So we've loaded it up with 6 rockets and 2 23mm anti-tank cannons. These things pack a hell of a punch. The rockets, less so. I'm mainly using them more as an experiment than anything else, just to see how effective they can be. The short answer is not very at all. They're ridiculously inaccurate and just, they're hopeless. But anyway, I decided to use them regardless, just because I thought it would be a little interesting. So we're coming in, doing some evasive maneuvers, trying to dodge some of the 20mm anti-tank fire that tank puts out at us, and there we go, it's reloading. Fire away the rockets, and they do absolutely nothing. Yeah. You can see why I don't really like using rockets too much. I think in future we're probably never even going to use them again. The only perk to them is they can be used on fighters, so maybe if we have some fighters laying about and we want to take out some supply units or whatever, we might use them. But otherwise, no. I think just in future we're going to be using bombs. You just can't beat a good old 250-pound bomb. If we'd thrown a bomb on that thing, it would be dead now. So yeah, we're not really going to be using rockets again. Look how hopeless that was. But thankfully we do have our 23mm anti-tank cannons, which, up against a vehicle with only one layer of armour, such as this light tank or those 2 tank destroyers, well, they don't really stand much of a chance. This gun on this light tank is not an anti-aircraft gun by any stretch of the imagination. It doesn't fire airburst round, they're armour-piercing rounds. It has to get a direct hit, but it's hopelessly inaccurate at a fast-moving target. It only fires little bursts, and yeah, it doesn't stand a chance against a dedicated ground attack aircraft like the Vulture. We do actually get a shot fired at us from one of those tank destroyers. I incorrectly assume that's from the light tanks. I start pulling some evasive maneuvers before I look back and realise, nope, that tank is very, very dead. It did not really stand a chance against us. I don't really know what Tape was thinking, attacking Valley's Guard and leaving them completely defenceless to anti-aircraft attack. And of course the tank destroyers, they don't even have a fully traversable turret, so there's nothing they can do. They're just sitting ducks for our cannons. So here we go, flying in, and yeah, just getting in some getting in some free target practice on some Kerthenian tanks. Eat that, Kerthenian scum! That's what you get for trying to take back Valley's Guard. If I were Tape, I almost certainly would have just stayed in Osiris Bay and reinforced it. If he had done that, put out some emplacements, some anti-aircraft guns, and kept his forces in there, I almost certainly wouldn't have even tried to attack it this turn. I would have had to build up my own forces, and then I would have been susceptible to even more attacks from the air while building up my forces at Valley's Guard. But as it stands, Tape does not appear to be a particularly effective master tactician, so there goes his second tank destroyer. It's actually remarkably intact. The first tank destroyer is completely obliterated, but that one, it's pretty much entirely in one piece. We actually only managed to take out the command module, so basically we killed all the crew inside it, but the tank itself is remarkably fine. If we actually had any kind of salvage or stealing or reusing mechanic in Fall of Kerbin, it'd be kind of useful, but as it stands we just scrap it. And we bring in our Vulture to land. Exceptional display from our 2 pilots. The Kruolan Air Force clearly exceptional when it comes to ground attack missions. I mean, the Kruolan Air Force has got a pretty solid history with attacking ground targets and basically air-to-ground cooperation. It's only air-to-air combat that we seem to suffer when it comes to facing the Kerthenians. Anyway, Tape has had another short sight in his strategy. He's built a bunch of anti-aircraft guns in the south, where I don't have a single aircraft. He hasn't got a single anti-aircraft gun in Osiris Bay. Osiris Bay, that's a city full of tanks, and he hasn't put not one flat gun in it. I mean, he's just asking to be bombed, really, isn't he? So, of course, we're sending out a BH-17 Albatross to go punish him for making that mistake. We actually get a partial solar eclipse while we're heading over. Clearly some kind of omen foreshadowing the bloodshed to come. And, of course, the inevitable victory of the Kruolan Air Force, or the Kruolans in general, over these Kerthenian capitalist scum. So here we go, we're approaching Osiris Bay. We've got 10 500-pound bombs. Open the bomb bay, and here we go. If Tape had a single 3-inch flak gun, this would have been far more difficult. We would have had to dodge flak, and we would have actually had to do some maneuvers to try and avoid getting shot down. As it stands, we can just waltz in and drop bombs at our pleasure, which means we can spend a lot of time lining them up, which means our bombs are going to be exceptionally accurate. Level bombing doesn't really work in a fast aircraft, but this BH-17 is not a fast aircraft, as you can clearly see. We're near our altitude ceiling. Could actually be a little higher, but I don't want to go too high up because I do want my bombs to be relatively accurate. So we drop a few bombs, get a good spread on the ground just in case, you know, some of them fall short, some of them go long, and there we go. We drop about 7 of our bombs onto 2 of those tanks down there. We need to be at quite a high altitude. A lot of you, I'm sure, will be thinking I could have gone at a much lower altitude to have slightly more accurate bombing, but you need to be at a high altitude so that your bombs are actually traveling relatively vertical by the time they're getting near the city, because otherwise they're just going to hit the buildings around the tanks and not do any damage. And there we go, lovely line of explosions, and yes, there we go, we get 1 of the tanks. The second tank is actually enclosed. It's quite well protected by the buildings around it, Tate clearly using his civilians as meat shields to protect his military. Not that the Kruolans are beyond that kind of tactic, yeah, so we can't actually get any accurate bombs onto, or any bombs whatsoever onto that second tank there, but there is another tank in the city, another light tank, so we're going to drop all but 1 of our remaining bombs on that one. And there we go. Now the benefit of bombing a city is that we also do damage to the city itself while bombing the units inside of it. So basically it's a double whammy. We're doing £4,500 worth of bomb damage to this city, which is almost half of its health, as well as destroying the forces within it and softening it up for our ground forces. And there we go. They didn't even stand a chance, did they? Again, fish in a barrel. It doesn't do it justice, does it? Anyway, we've got 1 bomb left, and instead of wasting it on attempting to hit that 1 tank in the city that's quite well tucked away, I decided I'm going to go after this Eddie Stobart over here, get a little bit more bomb practice in large open plains. There we go. I don't actually think the bomb's going to be particularly accurate, because I bombed a little bit to the right. I wasn't entirely sure about it, but I just followed it down to the ground so I can just get a cool shot of it falling down towards the Eddie Stobart, and oh dear, this is looking good. And direct hit from 4 kilometers up with a 500-pound bomb on that supply unit. I mean, it's a 500-pound bomb on a supply unit. You don't even need to get a direct hit. I mean, that's just showing off at this point, isn't it? Kruolan pilots are nothing if not proud to be serving the motherland. Anyway, now we only face a single light tank with our ground forces, so there's no need to really send in a massive show of force. We're simply sending in 3 light tanks to cleanse the city of Kerthenian vampire scum. It's actually already becoming overgrown, as you see, giant piles of sewage and grass lying in the streets from their hurried evacuation, of course, as soon as they heard that the mighty Kruolans were approaching the city. I will need to deal with Tape's forces in the south, because he's been dividing his forces between 2 fronts, which is probably why we're smashing him in the north so thoroughly. But at the moment, we're sort of keeping them at bay with our navy and our air force, so we're pretty much free to reign about in Osiris Bay and in the north. We did have a little bit of a scare last time because, of course, our invasion of Osiris Bay failed due to a lot of me making silly mistakes and such. From now on, we're only sending light tanks into the meat grinder that is urban combat. Medium tanks, they can't really use their advantages in close quarters urban combat. But anyway, as it was last turn, we're looking street to street, looking for... Oh, and there it is! There it is! Okay, we back up immediately and bring up our other 2 tanks so we can get a little bit of support, so we can get right in. So if our first tank dies, we can bring them straight in and get it while it's reloading. So the first tank goes in, going around the corner. Here it is. Okay, open fire. Oh no, it gets the first shot in, and it takes us out. We get 1 or 2 shots onto it, but it's not quite enough to take it out. We quickly rush in while it's reloading. We've done quite a lot of damage to it. We put a whole salvo into this thing, but we're hitting it on the turret where there armor's strongest. So actually we don't actually do any damage. We take a few hits, but we manage to pull back, and it's alright. So there we go. After reconsolidating our attack plan, we rush straight in, and there we go, get a few more shots on. It gets a few shots onto us, but we're rushing straight in. It misses most of those shots, and a few of them bounce, but then the Kerb attacks us. I don't know, some kind of Kerb-related Kerthenian booby trap, but it actually backfires because it means our shots are going lower and they hit the command module instead of the turret, and the day is ours. Osiris Bay finally fallen to the Kruolan motherland, as it should be. So we hide our tanks throughout the city and also back them up with two self-propelled guns, one with a 3-inch gun and one with a 37mm, because we're not going to make the same mistake as Tape and leave this completely vulnerable to air attack. We've also got 3 20mm emplacements throughout the city as well. I highly doubt Tape will bomb his own city, but I don't know, he's a filthy capitalist. If he thinks that it'll save him more money to bomb the city and then repair it later, he'll almost certainly do it. Anyway, in other news, our northern carrier group is finally completed. The Kua Watson there, of course, being the pride of the Kruolan Navy. Our Galapagos class heavy cruiser and our second Adeli class light cruiser have now caught up. So next turn we'll be in range with our carrier to do a port strike on Osiris Fortress, and then surely Osiris Fortress will fall soon after. We're going to be pretty even on the naval battleground, so that can swing either way really. And in the south we have a brand new carrier, the KUS Carl Mason, and it's going to be backed up by a Galapagos class, the Kyle Hajdorm. I think I pronounced that right. This one hasn't got 3 bombers actually, it's got 3 carrier fighters and a single bomber, because this carrier group is going to be playing a far more defensive role. We're basically just trying to hold the line in the south to try and stop Tape invading. I'm not going to send it too many resources because we really want to focus on the north. That's where I think we're going to win the war. So in the meantime, what we need to do is keep his navy at bay. So we won't really be entering into any decisive naval battles, just sort of annoying him and just sort of interdicting him now and then when he tries to do things. I believe it's called a fleeting being, where you keep your navy in port or keep it in safe waters and don't actually enter into a massive engagement with the enemy, just so they always have to act in a defensive manner. They always have to divert resources to defending against you. We also construct some emplacements at Valley's Guard and a single 3-inch flat gun here at Kermingrad, just in case Tape decides to launch a vengeance mission for us flattening Osiris Bay earlier in the turn. But that is Fall of Kerbin, episode 13. Thank you very much for watching, and I do hope you enjoyed. Next turn we'll be launching multiple carrier attacks across the Aesir. It's going to be a massive naval battle and things are really going to ramp up. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.